Right, so this is the kit that I used on Te Araroa, specifically what I finished with, as there were a few changes that I made along the way. So, to get started, let's talk about the pack itself. This is a homemade DIY backpack made from X-Pack and ultra stretch mesh. I made this pack back in December, specifically for the TA, but as it's my first pack that I had ever made, it didn't go 100% as planned. Specifically, it's a little small, which I did find to be a little bit cumbersome with some of the larger food carries on the trail. It's around 25 litres, I think, but that is a ballpark guess because I've never filled it up with water. Loved having a pack that I made on the trail, but it was a little bit small, but that's okay. So next, the pockets. You'll see that it has the running vest kind of design straps on the front, which were great for holding my water bottle, which is a 1 litre plastic water bottle from a supermarket, and also my camera on the other side. This Peak Designs capture clip holds my camera perfectly stable, and they balance each other out on either shoulder. In there as well, I've got my camera gear. This is SD cards, spare battery, and my lens cleaner. Slip that back in. And up here I have a New Zealand post office bag. This is what I use to keep my camera dry in the rain, which in hindsight was risky, but my camera still works and no complaints. Maybe a Ziploc would work better. This is what I had, I used it. Yes, so that's the vest strap pockets. Onto the back. So in one side I have my cooking kit. Oh. So this cooking kit consists of a 750ml Tokes cooking pot and my Pocket Rocket Deluxe, which I love. Both of which have gone on the entire PCT and the section of the TA that I did. And yeah, love them. Tough as anything. Other side, trekking poles. These are the Black Diamond Alpine Carbon Corks. Cork is great because it doesn't get sweaty, and these ones are just a slightly tougher, thicker type of carbon, and they're pretty good. Carbon fibre poles, cork grips, no complaints there. I've also got my Sea to Summit spoon and my tent stakes in a little bag full of dirt by the sounds of it. In the big stretchy pack pocket, I have a bandana that I found at the floor at Reading Festival in 2018, and it's come with me ever since. It's done well, but it's got many holes in and it's really dirty. Got a load of suncream. I am English. It's suncream, and that's essential for a ginger like me, because otherwise I would be a crisp. Suncream. Bit of spare guy line for my tent. Don't know why it's on the outside pocket. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Med kit. That has got plasters and ibuprofen and a sewing kit and a roll of gauze, which is definitely not sterile anymore. I'll never use that. Tooth kit. I'm afraid to say that I am a toothbrush cutter. It's a problem. I'm working on it. Apologies. I also have toothpaste and floss. Floss is great for keeping your tent held together in a pinch, and it's also pretty good at cleaning your teeth out. All held in a little baggie from Tesco's. This baggie is not from Tesco's. This is a real Ziploc baggie from the States, holding, yeah, this is my poop kit. It's got a trowel, toilet paper, baggie for used toilet paper, and some anti-bag. So yeah, poop kit. Don't want to talk too much about that. And that's the back all done. Okay, another thing on the front, which I didn't talk about, is buff. This is a Banff Film Festival buff. It's falling apart, but I love it to bits. Super cool design. So that's the outside of the pack done. I'll move on to the inside. Inside this pack, I have got, first up, food bag, always at the top. Got to have the snacks accessible. This is an REI food bag gifted to me by Nugget on the PCT. It's come with me ever since. Thank you, Nugget. Appreciate it. Next up, rain jacket. Decathlon, cheap, lightweight, running rain jacket. Kept me dry. The DWR wears off, just like any jacket. This one particularly quickly. What can you do? Only cost me like 50 quid. Warmth. Didn't carry many warm layers on this trail. In general, that was fine. It was pretty warm, pretty consistent temperatures, but we did get the odd bit of snow and cold days, which when you're staying in a hut with 10 other people, really doesn't matter that much. But in a pinch, if I had to camp out, it would have been cold. But yes, clothing. This is a Farpoint Alpha Direct Polartec fleece. It's got a hood, it's warm, it's incredibly light, and I love it to bits. Yeah, definitely recommend Polartec Alpha. That stuff is incredible. Spare pair of socks. These are some Bridgedales, which I think Chaz gifted me somewhere south of here. Yeah, they worked. Other socks I was wearing, these ones are Smart Wools. I just use whatever socks I can get, but if I can get them, Darn Toughs are my favourites because they will give you a lifetime warranty. Very useful. Gloves, I carried some lightweight fleece gloves from the North Face. They kept my hands warm, as they're meant to. Ugh, my tent, not very accessible, but this is an incredibly expensive tent. There's a bit of an investment after the PCT, a sort of present. It's the Dan Durston X-Mid Pro. It's a 2-person tent, and it doesn't weigh anything. It's so small, so big, almost to its fault. Being so large, some of the campsites on the TA didn't want to fit my tent in it, which I think is an argument for carrying a smaller, lighter tent. You'd find it hard to make a lighter tent than that, but a smaller tent in general could be useful on this trail. Other than that, very little else. I have my quilt. This is a Thermarest Vesper 32. I think that's 32 limit temperature, apparently. It keeps me warm down to 0. But apparently others, it doesn't do the same. So maybe a warmer quilt would be good for you if you don't do so well with the cold. I clearly do all right with the cold because I didn't carry much warm gear and I stayed warm. Speaking of staying warm, this is the Thermarest Ultralight sleeping pad. The bit of gear that I had the most trouble with on the whole trail. I actually started the trail with a yellow X-Lite, similar to this, a bit heavier. That thing had done the entire PCT with no holes. I loved it. But at the start of this trail, it ballooned out, baffles popped, big mess. So I ordered this, got hold of it, and on the first night that I used it, the baffles popped in this one as well. And it just kept going through the whole trail to the point where my pad was basically not sleepable. That was the thing that kept me the most uncomfortable on this trail. Not the lack of puffer jackets or warm quilts, it was the fact that I was often sleeping on the ground because this pad sucks. It works for some people, didn't work for me, or my friend Ben, who had exactly the same experience. Just stay away. So yes, that's everything that was in my main pack, main compartment, big three. All pretty lightweight and definitely not kit that is for everyone, but for me it worked great, other than my sleeping pad. Wouldn't recommend the Ultralight. So moving on is my Fanny Pack. This thing is another homemade bit of gear, but I actually made before the PCT, which means it's seen quite some use. It's sort of falling apart, and I think this might be its last outing. It's not waterproof, it is got many holes, but still holds my things, which are my ditty bag and random receipts and hut checks. Ditty bag consists of a Nightcore 10,000 mAh battery pack, worked great, charged my camera and my phone and my AirPods for like up to 4 days. I could push it longer if I had to. I also have my passports, which I kept on me because I don't trust the New Zealand Postal Service to deliver them anywhere. This is my Nightcore 25 headlamp. Hardly had to charge it, really bright, red light saying all good. And I have this, an Otterbox charging block. It's got 3 outlets, worked great. Yeah, got some cables in there, don't need to show you them. And a roll of thread. Thread, always want to keep thread around. Oh, and a needle in there apparently as well, didn't realise. That would be useful though. Yeah. So the last thing that I can't show you is my camera, which I carried for the whole trail. It is the Sony ZV-E10 with a Sony 18 to 135 lens. I loved carrying this thing, and shooting videos throughout this trail was a lot of fun. So the food I'd carry along the way, I'd split. I'd have my day's worth of food in the bottom pocket of my bag, which was always accessible. And I'd also have some stuff in my fanny pack or the vest straps, but most of my food would be stored in the food bag throughout the day at the bottom of my pack. And yeah, that's around it, I think. So yeah, that is all the kit that I finished the TA with. It's definitely not much, and if I was going to do it again, I'd carry more. I'd carry a puffy, and I'd carry some leggings. I'd want to be warmer. But this gets me on to my second point, which is about homemade backpacking gear. It's one of the most rewarding feelings to hike through nature in the middle of the backcountry with a pack that you've sewed yourself and a fanny pack that's done the same. I loved it on this trail, but with it comes a strange limitation that I found. When you're attached to your gear, it can affect the choices you make, and it definitely did for me. When I switched to the pack you've just seen, I had a decision to make. It was not as big as I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be about 30 to 35 litres rather than 25 to 30. And that difference, although it might seem small, was what meant that I couldn't carry a puffy or my leggings really, because I needed space for food. And that's not a decision you want to be making, and it's easy when you haven't made the pack yourself. You just take the pack that's going to work best for you. But because I'd made it, I wanted it to work. I had bias, and that bias led me to carry it for the rest of the trail. And I loved it, but I was cold. And so hiking with your own gear, maybe don't take the prototype on the TA. That's my last bit of advice. If I'm gonna make another pack, which I'm sure I will, it'll be a little bigger. got to carry a puffy. That's for certain. But yeah, that's the end of my my video on the gear I used on Te Araroa. I hope you found some value in it, and if you'd like me to do any other videos on the backpack, for instance, how I made it, or what I did for food, and any other questions you might have, drop them in the comments and maybe I'll make another video on it. Shut up! Shut up! Yeah, other than that, I've got a few more of my series on the TA coming out in the next few weeks, and I hope you check them out. Number 2 is my favourite, Queen Charlotte track. I hope that you guys like it. That should be coming out around the same time as this one. Thanks.